It's still absolutely crazy to me that I have been making videos pretty much constantly for the last 6 years now, and hitting that part. But I thought this would be. I did shamelessly steal this video idea from Jake, the Bookish Drummer, for the record, and I get to one up him because I have a year on him. Uh, but we're gonna go through and look over these 6 years that I have been making videos, doing BookTube and reading and everything. What are the best books that I have read? And we will talk about them. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, that's right, we're going to be talking about the best books that I have read over the last 6 years. And yeah, it is still crazy it's been this long. I made my first video, I think March 10th is when I posted it. And I wasn't completely regular from that point, but pretty close. I started in April posting regularly. I was posting multiple videos a week. And nobody really saw any of those videos for quite a while because I was totally unaware of the community. But I was reading and I thought it'd be interesting to go back and look. And thankfully, I actually made some form of video. Mostly, I started doing top tens, but I found an old video from uh, the. Uh, the end of 2020 as well, where I did like what's the best books that I read during this time. Was really funny, especially that first one, because so many books that it's been that long, which is kind of crazy, but also just books where I'm like, man, I have maybe changed my opinion on some things. So this isn't necessarily everything that I specifically ranked exactly, like if you go back and watch my previous top tens, but looking back at my top books and the ones that really stand out is still, I think these are the top books. And that's what we're going to talk about here. So we're going to go in reverse order and start with the 2025. Obviously for 2026, I don't know yet, but because that's been the most recent, I won't spend a ton of time talking about it because you can watch my top 10 books of 2025 if you want to know more. But that was headlined by The Warrior Prophet and Brightness Long Ago, which I have packed because I this was a poor time to make this video when I don't have all my books out. But these were both just phenomenal books. Some books that just jump into the stratosphere of books that I have read. Brightness Long Ago being a standalone and maybe second only to another one that spoiler is going to be on this list. But it just was really, really great. And Kay is one of my absolute favorite authors. And then The Warrior Prophet, which by far the strongest book of the Prince of Nothing trilogy, but just is the book that I still can't believe how much I enjoyed this. This is just everything about this book just works for me so well, and really fantastic. So, like I said, I talk more about those in the top 10 of 2025 video if you do want to see more about that. But I figure we will jump in then to 2024. Now, since thankfully this is not a top 10 list, I'm definitely picking multiple things from each year and just kind of really like the highlight and the standout things. So when we're looking to 2024, one really big standout immediately is The Navigator's Children by Tad Williams. This is the last book in the Last King of Austin Ard series, and I already loved Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. It just was really, really fantastic. And this is the rare sequel series that not only is just so good on its own right, but actually, I think for me, overtakes the original trilogy. I love that original trilogy. There's so many things that are amazing about it and that I love. This, though, is just as good of a writer as Tad Williams was that early in his career. He's just an even better writer now. And these books have everything that I love, plus things that have evolved in this world over time, and just him is the prose being even better. There's just so much to love, and the sequel series as well too. It felt so true to the original characters. Well, they've grown, it's changed. There's been about 20 years, between, and it's similar to the time gap of the books being published. But it's been there's been time that's passed. The characters have changed, but they're still the characters. But getting to go back to this world that I loved and then have so much more revealed, so much more shown as well too. It just was amazing to come back to this. And I don't know why more people haven't picked this up. It is done. I mean, it took a while to get done, but it is completely done. So especially if you're a Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn fan, do yourself a favor, go pick up the Last King of Austin Ard series. It is just seriously phenomenal. The other thing here, which I mentioned, is my favorite Guy Gabriel Kay book. Obviously, comes here because I read this in 2024. But that is The Lions of Al Rasan. And yeah, The Lions of El Rasan is one of my favorite books of all time, possibly my favorite book of all time. I can't wait to reread it too, because it was the first Guy Gabriel Kay book that I read, and it just absolutely blew me away. I have read a nice chunk, I think a little more than half of his stuff, maybe more than that, because I'm almost done with the historical fiction stuff. Maybe more. I don't know. I've read a good chunk, and I've enjoyed every one of his books so far. Some more than others, but I've loved most of them. And The Lions of Albersan is one of his earlier books, and it's in kind of more of a normal storytelling style versus what he kind of started to get to later in his career with these sort of shifting POVs and that just ethereal feel. And it's so good. The story, the plot, the characters, it actually like made me realize that you can write a love triangle and have it be really compelling part of the story and not have me hate it, among many other things. And it's just the way that that man writes, the way he evokes imagery and emotion and theme is so good. I just, whenever I'm reading a K book, I just feel like I'm at home in those books. And so that, of course, is amazing book, and having that as well, uh, is yeah, makes it a really good year. And then, of course, there was one other big one, which was also the end to a series, and that is Song of the Mysteries by Janny Wurts. This series did the unthinkable and took over as my favorite series of all time over Wheel of Time, which had a stranglehold on that #1 spot for many years. Things like Memory Star and Thorn, which is still, I think, currently in my 2 spot, especially when you add Last King of Ostenard, makes it even harder. But there's lots of other things that I've read that have become instant top 10 series for me. This, though, is just a series that I think, especially, I read it at the right time for me. I was at the right time in my reading journey, and I connected with it so much. I just absolutely fell in love with it. And there's just something about the way that Janny Wurts writes. And I've read all of her stuff at this point. That all of her solo stuff. I still need to finish Empire, but I've read all of it. I've seen some different styles of hers, but the style here in this series, it's absolutely beautiful. And the way that she writes, it's the most specific and by perfect imagery and style to get across the story that she's trying to tell. The depth of the emotion and the just insane scale of the world that she has created here, it feels very much alive. And the end of this series, absolutely a triumphant end. I was waiting to officially say it until I finished it, but it's one of those things where I was on the second book where I'm just absolutely fell in love with the series and realized how special it was, and then it finished so strong with Song of the Mysteries. So it's hard. It's like looking back at the years too and trying to think like what was my best reading year. It might legitimately have to be 2024, just because finishing Last King of Ostenard, finishing Song of the Mysteries, and reading Lions of Albersan, one of my favorite books of all time. That is a fantastic year. And so that while 2025 had obviously some really great stuff too, that's a really fantastic year. But then when you look back too, there's lots more good stuff to come too. But that's where we end for 2024. So you may already know or be able to tell, but we will definitely be talking about more Janny Wurts stuff, including in 2023. But let's break it up a little bit and talk about one of the just big surprise books and series that I absolutely fell in love with, that I just can't say enough good things about, which is Lord of a Shattered Land by Howard Andrew Jones. This is the first book in the Hanuvar Chronicles. Tragically, Howard did pass away. And so we have the 3 books here, and there may or may not be more, but it's one of those series that you get a satisfying enough ending in book 3 that if it ends there, it ends there. And it's just I do want to read more of what he's written. I actually first found out about this because I read a previous trilogy that he did, and he saw it and reached out and got me an early copy of this to read. And I liked his other series, but this felt like this was really his magnum opus. And so it's such a shame that he's hopefully starting to get recognized for this when he does pass. But it's just, yeah, it's absolutely worth checking out. This is very sword and sorcery, but with just modern writing twists. And it's taking somebody, an author who has an absolute love for the source material, the original sword and sorcery type of stuff, but also making it, I think, at least for me, much more enjoyable in style. And that's where trying to go back and read some of that stuff has not always landed for me. So I think he's taken the heart and soul of that and really made it more better for like the modern audience. But the character of Hanuvar, the world that's set up here is really great. The story, the plots, but the character of Hanuvar, just going through the journey with him. The books, a lot of them, they act almost like connected short stories because there's these different self-contained stories in each chapter for the most part in the bigger story, and it's just going through these books is just so engaging, so fantastic. There's so many great scenes, great lines, just great moments. I cannot recommend it enough. Hanuvar is one of my favorite characters, just a phenomenal character, and the books are just really good, and absolutely more people should check them out. Absolutely. Um, with that, then we will jump back to some Janny Wurts because I was reading The Wars of Light and Shadow for quite some time. It's a long series and they're really long books. So 2023, not a surprise, we have Stormed Fortress was the last Wars of Light and Shadow book that I read in 2023, and then I ended up finishing up the rest of the series in 2024, and then the last book coming out as well. But it's perfect. But this just this is this is such a good book. I love the series as a whole, but it is put into different arcs. And Storm Fortress is the end of the longest arc, which is the third arc, the Alliance of Light. It's the end of that arc, and it really is. It's like there's still obviously a lot more to happen. We have three more books after this, which are two different arcs on their own as well. But this is the end of a really big arc, and it's just emotionally devastating and so well done book with how it ends, and it does feel has a really big air of finality to it as well. There's the bigger stuff still to happen, but for so much of the story that's been told up to that point, this is just kind of that capstone, and it's just absolutely beautifully done. And then, funnily enough, the book that Janny Wurts took time off the series to write after that because she needed to take a break and write something else that also ended up being super emotionally devastating is To Ride Hell's Chasm, which also is absolutely up there on some of my favorite standalone books of all time. It's got everything that I love about Janny Wurts with just the absolute beautiful writing, the super deep and emotional characters, and just the sheer amount of world building and depth to the world that she fits into this one. Like it's not a short book, but it's still one book. The amount that she fits into this is also just amazing. And this is following a different type of story with a character who is dealing with discrimination and hate against them while still trying to do their job and protect the person that they're supposed to protect. And they go on a harrowing journey against all kinds of crazy forces, and it's like so beautifully written, but there are just horribly sad moments and just devastating moments as well as beautiful moments. And it's just it's kind of it's a one of a kind story, and it's something again I can't recommend Janny enough. She is by far one of my favorite authors, and this is just it's phenomenal. I'd heard great things about this. I took me a bit to get to it just because I wanted to get through the Wars of Light and Shadow first, but it's fantastic book. I did end up reading it, I think, after Storm Fortress because that's when it was written, and just doing it that way. But really fantastic book as well, and can't recommend checking out enough. It's a great one too if you want to find out if Janny Wurts is going to be for you. This style is the closest of her work that you're going to find to Wars of Light and Shadow because she wrote it during that time, so it's a good one to check out for that reason as well. And that brings us to 2022. I will just go right into it this time and say I got to talk about Ships of Merrier by Janny Wurts. So this is the second book. This is a combination hardcover of the original edition that has both Ships of Merrier and Warhost of Vastmark. So it's those two books. And this is the one where I really fell in love with the series. And so it's funny looking back because of the fact that I was reading Wurts and specifically the series for a long time, that it's such a standout of my last like few years. But Ships of Merrier remains one of, if not, it's so hard to pick favorite books in that series because the last book and several other of the like really big books in there are so great. But Ships of Merrier is always going to be that book where I fell in love with the series. I was so sold. I realized how special it was here. it's just, this is where I really felt the deep connection to the characters, to the world, and everything. And so that is always going to be probably like my personal favorite, even though I rank others higher than it usually. And we'll talk again about that kind of idea, that where I rank versus personal favorite. But yeah, it's there. I think that is the last words here. So we are going to talk about other authors too. The other huge one, though, which I think I counted this as a book a little bit when I made a video cheating on this, but we got to talk Long Price Quartet by Daniel Abraham. This is a top 10 series for me still as well here, too. And this is an edition of the four. I was really lucky, actually, and I bought this, just bought it. It was just still available for sale before the series really blew up. I think originally from Alan in his recommendation. So I got this, and you can't really get this anymore. And I know people have had a lot of trouble tracking down the series after it's gotten really, really popular. But this is just really, really fantastic. Um, the Long Price Quartet is it's four rather short books, but it really is exactly what it described. The Long Price, it explores in a way I've never read anything else the long-term consequences of sometimes even small actions or decisions, and the setup of the world and the beauty of the magic, where you have poets who are capturing ideas and things into a specific words, and then there's basically like a, a type, almost like a person that's created, but more of like a, you know, a force of that magic that can then do specific things, and that's the way that they use magic. But there's so much more that goes into it, the culture, the way that they talk and express things, and just so many different pieces here. The amount of depth Daniel Abraham gets into this world, and what is, you know, if you even look at these, you know, this is technically two books, you could say, I guess, but it was published and released in one. This is four. And you look at other books that can be as long or longer than this entire series that do way less than this one does. Which, granted, Wars of Light and Shadow is not one of those, because those books are, but you can see a lot of long books that just don't do a whole lot. And Daniel Abraham, in this short amount of time, manages to just tell a huge story that really, really explores those long term things, and comes back, and just each book builds on each other, and really, really just another fantastic series. And it's, yeah, it's the fact that it's crazy it's been that long. I feel like it wasn't that long ago that I read the series, but it was an immediate one. I had a lot of fun reading it. It did take me I had to get a little bit further into it, because it's another one where you start out and you don't have everything yet, but each book builds. So I ended up as a whole just falling in love with this for sure. But it was just a really, really great time. And that then gets us to 2021, which I'm looking at this, and this feels like 2021 might have been like the other in competition for possibly great years, because this was another that added so many things to my top 10 series, and things that remain on there as well with series. So the first thing I'll mention is the Crown of Stars series. You've heard me talk about it a lot, I'm sure, if you watch the channel regularly. But I picked Child of Flame because this is my favorite book out of the series. Now, this is book four, and it's not to say that the other books aren't as good. This one is just, I think I talked at the time too. This book focuses a lot, especially on my favorite character, and just the entire journey that they go through in this book is just one of my favorite plot lines, things to follow. I really liked the ending of the series. I think it's in my top 10 series, so that tells you something. But this book in particular, it's one of the longest ones too. And you got so much on the plot line of my favorite character, and so I really, really particularly loved this one. And Crown of Stars is just, again, it's one of those series that I know I've gotten some people to check it out, and not everybody has loved it as much as I do. Some people certainly have, but it's really one of those series that is just, it's such a great series. It's 7 books. It's one of those long ones, but you're just sort of like gritty, extremely realistic medieval fantasy. And I've read a lot of stuff that falls into that sort of category, and this, I think, does the most with the realism and also just the world building. Kate Elliott is just a master world builder, and it's what she likes to do. She likes to create these just huge worlds and tell really, really great character stories within them as well. And it's just so much to love there. So that was a really great addition. I do vividly remember trying to finish the last book by the end of the year so that I could include it on my top 10 series, because I have my arbitrary rule where I can't. So I remember I was really trying to finish the series by the end of the year, which I did in 2021. That's the year it entered the list. Um, So there's that. Then continuing right on with another super high ranked series that we've already talked about a little bit, but we have Two Green Angel Tower by Tad Williams. Now this is another one. The first book I really liked all of the books, but the first book, The Dragonbone Chair, I loved and so much about it. But Green Angel Tower is just it's a behemoth of a book, and it is super long. I remember we did a buddy read for this, and we were supposed to split it between 2 months and like take a break. I went right in because despite how long this is, I couldn't put it down. It was so good, and it's really fun seeing just how I'm talking about 6 years of my life, 6 years of reading, and how much of it really is some of the same core authors with Guy Gavriel Kay, Janny Wurts, Tad Williams, that just were such a huge part of what I was reading and what I was loving, and the best books that I've read. But yeah, Memory of Sauron Thorn was already one of my all-time favorites, very high on that list. And then continuing and getting Last King of Osnard later just did even more. But man, it's just it's everything that I love about classic style fantasy. But also with really great writing and just a lot of stuff that, granted, a lot of the like twists and turns are things that you've seen now more often because this was a very influential series. It's kind of like you talk about, Magician by Ray Feist. At the time that was like really different for a lot of things he's doing, but nowadays you've seen most of what he was doing there too, so it can happen. And Tad Williams was hugely influential for a lot of people who ended up being way bigger names and way more popular than he has been for whatever reason. But just a phenomenal author, and Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, and especially this last book, it's just, despite the length, I couldn't put it down. I was so engaged. It was so great. It's a really great ending. It adds so much more to the world with the characters. Just so much great stuff there. And then an author that we haven't talked about yet, although I was absolutely reading this author over the next couple of years, but you'll see why. We got to talk about Robin Hobb, and I have both Fool's Errand and Fool's Fate here because I usually rank Fool's Fate as my favorite realm of the Elderlings books, and when I'm ranking, I do tend to put it higher. But when I'm thinking about it, and I was actually just talking about this lately, I think I have to go with Fool's Errand as my personal favorite, largely because I know I'm not alone here, but the first like 200 pages of this book are some of my favorite of any books that I've read. It's just the first 200 pages are just phenomenal, and the rest of the book's really good too. And like the way that this one ends as well, it's the first book of a trilogy, and yet there's a lot that happens here, and I absolutely love the book. I love the series. It's for me, we Fool's Fate is that peak, and then we're not going to talk more from there. But the reading these books, and it's one too. I do want to go back and reread this series as well because I think I will appreciate so much more about Farseer after having read the rest of the series and gone for there as well. But also, I just can't wait to re-experience the Tawny Man trilogy, because as much as I ended up loving Farseer by the end, the Tawny Man trilogy just another level for me. And I do live ships as well. I very much like the live ship traders. But just yeah, I these books, the deep character moments, they are just emotionally gutting for the most part. You get a lot of that with Hobb in general. She likes to really just hurt people, both her characters and you the reader. That's kind of her thing. So you get a lot of that, but there's so much emotion into these stories. It's so easy for me at least to connect with the characters and just really feel so much of what's happening here, and they will always hold a special place for me. And yeah, reading Crown of Stars and Memory of Sorrow and Thorn and a good chunk around the Elderlings in a year. That's a pretty good year. All right, and so we got back to the beginning, 2020, the first year that I had started my channel. And it's funny because I was looking back at just some of like the really older videos, and there's a lot more bad than good for me in 2020. Books and series, like the very first video I ever did was a very negative video, and I had some other early ones that were, and then there were other videos I did about books that I really liked at the time that maybe I grew to not like as much later, or just things that I changed a little bit, or just things that were like, yeah, they were fine. But I read a lot during that time, but I didn't start to get to the standouts as much until the next year, and that's what really started. So the things I will mention here, I'll so much a couple of things. Discworld in general, I actually haven't read Night Watch yet because I'm about halfway through. I've been reading in publication order, but 2020 is the year that I really started getting into Discworld and stuck with it. I had originally read Color of Magic and hated it. Never technically finished that book, but then I've read uh, every other book since then, up to like the point I'm at. I'm a little over half. So some of the early ones here that I really enjoyed, like Equal Rights and Guards, and um, getting to those points as well. It's just I did have a lot of fun with Discworld, and Discworld's never going to be a favorite series of all time for me, like it is for some people. There is a lot here. I really enjoy the books, but it's not ever been for me the big thing that I look for. But when I just want something fun. That also has depth and meaning to it, and it's just gonna really be a good time. Discworld is always there for me for sure. So I figured I'd call it out. But then the other one, which is another one, which was a top 10 series, and one of the first ones where I think it was a series that I read that was kind of showing what more to was what was to come with the way my taste was changing, because my taste has changed a lot in the last 6 years. I think it shows a lot in the types of books that I was reading then, and even the ones that I was really enjoying, and the types of books that I'm reading and really enjoying now has changed a lot. And you can see that for the most part looking as well. But one of the first books to really do that was the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant. Now this is this cool version I have that is a bind up of all three. But I read the first book. I picked them up. I was not familiar with them at all. I just got a little box set that I found used, and I read the first book, and I'm like, oh, this is really good. But I just also struggled to get into it for some reasons. And then after continuing, though, it's just phenomenal, really, really fantastic. Now I did read the second trilogy. Also, really liked the second trilogy. Very much so as well. It's just as you saw, there were so many fantastic things that despite how much I enjoyed that trilogy, it didn't make it quite up to get mentioned prior to this. But Donaldson is another one of those authors. He's really become a favorite author, and I've read a ton of Donaldson because I picked up the first book, Lord Fowl's Bane, and read it in 2020 totally randomly. And it's one of those things that I'm so glad I did, because I don't pick up nearly as many random books as I used to. And granted, that's one of the reasons 2020 had a lot of bad, because there was a lot of just random stuff that I picked up that did not end up being very good or being for me. I'm much more intentional with a lot of the stuff that I'm picking up now. But also, as a random pickup, this is probably one of, if not the best I've ever had for just randomly picking something up. It worked out really well, and I think that's just to show up what's to come. Donaldson is an author. He also likes to do a lot with theme. Also is a really excellent just technical writer. The way that he writes, very beautiful style, and digging into bigger themes. He writes challenging stories, challenging characters to identify with, and is just one of those authors that is always challenging the reader in general. And it makes him not work for everyone completely fairly. He's not going to write the stuff that you just sit and read and like, oh, that's a nice story. It's always pushing at you and making you really think about things, and maybe have to change your view, or really like think about how you view stuff. And it's just I've not really read many authors that do that, and it's the way he writes. It's so engaging to me, and it all started here back in 2020 when I picked this up. So definitely to talk about that one. So I did read the whole series. If we are, calling it just one book, it would be the last book, The Power That Preserves, because that book is a masterpiece. The series, the trilogy as a whole, like in retrospect, is I didn't give it, I don't think, enough credit early on, because I struggled to get into it in some ways. There are still a couple of things that nitpicks here and there, but especially the third book is just fantastic. The second trilogy is great, and it adds a ton, and it does really solidify it as a top 10 series for me. But that first trilogy is just something truly special as well, so worth mentioning. Well, there you have it. I think there was maybe 15 books slash stuff that I mentioned specifically here. So, like I said, not a top 10 by any means, but going through and finding all of the best books that I've read in the last 6 years since Booktube, I'm pretty comfortable with this list. There are so many other really good books, so many other great books, and so many other books that I've loved, but really just going to the core stuff that just stands out from each year. here we have it. So I'd love to hear your thoughts here. And I'd be curious too if you have anything similar where you've explored specific authors and had them be such a big part of the amount of reading, or if you've gone the complete opposite way and you have just found all kinds of different ones and not the same ones. But would be curious to hear from you there. So let me know in the comments. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the links in the description as always for the Patreon if you want to support what I do, as well as the Wizardly Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether any of these books, other books, really anything at all. It's a lot of fun and we'd love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.